Hello, this is Sarah and welcome back to my channel. In this video, I'll be showing you how to make the paper lotus. Please like this video below and subscribe to my channel. I'll be linking all the materials and the template for the lotus below the video. You could use this template for the Cricut, Silhouette, or other cutting machines, and I also have it available for hand cutting for those that don't have a cutting machine. First, I'll be adding yellow watercolor onto the center of the lotus pieces. The center will be a solid yellow, so you could also just use a solid yellow paper, but I wanted to cut the center fringe on the white paper because I wanted to only add the yellow watercolor in the middle of the fringes and leaving the tips of the fringes white. I felt the fringes in the lotus had white and yellow, so that is the detail that I'm trying to do. But again, you could just use yellow paper instead if you want to opt out on the coloring. You'll need 4 of the center fringes. Next, I'll be adding some watercolor to the lotus petals. This is optional. You could make just solid white or solid pink paper lotus. But I wanted the edges to have a little bit of a pink, so I use a clean water brush and add just water on the paper. And with another brush, I'll be stroking pink just on the outline of the petals. Then I add a few strokes in the center about halfway in. This doesn't have to look perfect and it's fairly easy as long as you are tracing along the shape on the outside. There will be 2 smaller pieces and 3 bigger pieces, so finish coloring the edges to all the lotus petals. We'll be leaving both the yellow center and the pink lotus petals to the side to dry, and we will paint the lotus leaves or lotus pads next. This we cut with green paper but use gouache paint to start in the center and add lines like you see when you cut a pizza. I like to use a little bit of yellow and green. While we wait for all the pieces we painted to dry, we will make the lotus pod. The pod has 3 parts and will go in this order to glue. I use this white glue with the fine tip to glue around the holes and add over the solid piece. The solid piece is supposed to be slightly bigger, so there will be a border around it. Then I like to shape by just pressing it in and out to just make sure it's not perfectly straight like a piece of paper. Then I take this shaping tool I'll be linking below, and I use the smallest ball point and trace around the holes on the whole side. Then flip it over and you'll see the embossed circle shapes. On the back side, we will now trace in the center of the circles, so these little ovals will be shaping out of the holes on the other side. Then you could flip it over and see what it looks like. Next will be the bottom of the pod, which looks like a circle shape with tabs. And these tabs have even smaller tabs on the side of the shape. That is where we'll be adding white glue and overlapping the other side on top. Go in order around the circle, and I like to hold it a few seconds once it's glued before going on to the next tab to make sure the glue is dry. The glue should dry clear, but you could also scratch along some of those dried glues if it doesn't go away. Then I try to push down the corners on the edges so I could smooth it out and it will look like a bowl shape. Next, grab floral wire and make a loop on one end and bring down the curled tip so it is perpendicular to the rest of the stem. Then poke a hole onto the bottom of the pod and add your floral wire and glue that down onto the bottom. Then I take the shaping tool, and you could use a stick or a pen, and bring down the small scallops you see on the top, and you could also kind of force it down by folding it down. This is where you'll be adding the white glue, and this tab will be attaching to the bottom part of the pod. This doesn't have to perfectly meet at the edges, but make sure that the top is fully covering the bottom bowl part. Next will be the lotus leaf, which will be like the lotus pad. We see it in the water or outside of the water. Curl the tip of the floral wire and make the loop perpendicular to the rest of the wire, and add this to the bottom piece. Then we'll be shaping the leaf, and I try to fold it along the lines I painted first. Then I like to shape it opposite to the folds and make it curl in on each section between the folds. I also like to shape the outer edge curled out. Just make sure it's not straight like a paper. Then glue the bottom with the floral wire onto the bottom of the leaf. Next will be the center of the lotus flower. We only painted one side yellow, so the other side I'll be adding little holes around the center. Then fold down the tabs going around the circle. Then glue the smaller tabs on the side and overlap the next one on top a little more than halfway into the shape. Eventually, we are trying to box in all the tabs, including the last one, all going in the same direction. And when you box it in, it should catch all the pieces naturally, but we still want to glue it down each piece at a time. Then you could glue the center fringes around the bottom. Once you have all the fringes glued, shape out the fringes curled out. Next, shape the lotus petals curling in each petal and open it back up, but also go back and curl in more on just the tips of the petals. I like to stack up a few at a time and shape together. First, glue and crisscross the smallest pieces, and those only have 3 petals each. Then crisscross the next 2 bigger pieces, and then you should have 1 extra piece left. Then glue the center into the smallest layer. I like to add the glue on the bottom outer rim and the bottom, then make all the petals go up towards the center. Then glue the next layer that had the crisscross layers also. Next, poke a hole on that last piece that was by itself. Then prep your floral wire the same way and glue that to the last lotus flower. Then add that rest on top of the floral wire. Next, floral tape your flower pod and leaf to match the stem color. I also made the lotus pod in brown to show you the dried version, which is very popular. I also colored it in to get the matching brown that I wanted, but if you find a darker solid color cardstock paper, that should work too. And you could do the same steps, except you won't need the extra layer between the holes, and you won't need to shape out the holes. it will just be hollow because the dried ones tend to have the holes. I also made them a little smaller to make a small arrangement for a box, and I also added the regular size into a vase and looked great. Please like this video below and subscribe to my channel. Thank you for watching.